Parks are not for sale. 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 First of all, I want to thank the media for coming out on a Saturday afternoon. But I'm joined by petitioners who joined me in the lawsuit against the city of New York for building the mega mall here on Parkland. I'm also joined by community leaders from all over the borough, park advocates, and just concerned citizens. Parkland is sacred. It's the responsibility of every municipality and elected officials to preserve parklands, not only for the people who use it currently, but for future generations. And the fact that we have to be here today to protest taking away parkland for a mega mall is disgraceful. Now, this was a project initiated by the former mayor, Mike Bloomberg, who seemed to think that parkland was for sale in the city of New York. But now, Mayor de Blasio has to defend this project and the lawsuit. And part of the reason we're here today is to ask our new mayor, Mayor de Blasio, to intercede. He campaigned on these issues, about more transparency. And I think he even said just the other day when he named the new Parks Commissioner that parkland is sacred. Mr. Mayor, we're asking for you to intercede and stop this project from happening and set a precedent that we believe is the law of this city and the state, that you cannot just give away parkland. Whenever the city of New York does something like this, you need to seek park alienation approval from the state legislature. The city under Mike Bloomberg did not do that. You also have to go through the Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, ULURP, to change the zoning and have such a mega project on this site. The city did not do that. So the city has violated city and state law to give the owners of this mega mall a $100 million gift at the expense of every person who uses parkland in the city of New York. We're standing in front of where the mega mall would go. And as you can see from behind us, there right now is Circus Olay, who's on the parking lot. There were many other such events that occurred during the year. That would no longer happen because there wouldn't be space for them to do it. So the community, which has had both Flushing, Corona, and everybody in the borough of Queens who comes to enjoy this park and the events such as Circus Olay, would not be able to do it. I cannot think of a more disgraceful act that the city of New York can do than what they're doing here today. And we're all united in saying, we're not going to let this happen. That's why we have the lawsuit. And we will fight to the bitter end to stop the city from doing this. And it's up to I almost said Mike de Blasio. It's up to Mayor de Blasio to tell the city of New York and the people of Queens who use Flushing Meadows Corona Park as their neighborhood park that he is not Mike Bloomberg, that he stands by the campaign promises he made during his campaign and now is going to be a mayor for the people and not the mayor for the developers that Mike Bloomberg was. The next person I'd like to call upon is also a petitioner in the lawsuit and somebody who has been very active on behalf of parks throughout the city, is Jeffrey Clark, speaking on behalf of park advocates.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone. It's heartwarming to see everyone come out today. This is a very, very important issue. We stand here today with the community, with residents, with plaintiffs, small business owners, park users, civic groups, along with State Senator Tony Avella, to stop the $1 billion parkland giveaway in Flushing Meadows Corona Park to build the Willets West mega mall. The developer, the related company, and Sterling Equities were able to steer 47.5 acres of public parkland away from the public to build the city's largest mall. Sounds like a fairy tale, but unfortunately, this nightmare is true. It is simply shameful. If the New York Mets no longer need the parkland behind us for parking, then restore the land and return it back to the public for recreation uses. Quite simply, this deal was an abuse of power. Mayor Bloomberg has so far been able to successfully seize the power from the old Board of Estimate, which enabled the project to bypass all legal approval processes, if that's a word, processes. No official vote from anyone except the mayor, who gifted our public park away to one of the city's most successful developers. No more backroom Bloomberg door policies. This is public parkland, and this is not in dispute. It does not belong to Bloomberg, the developers, Jalissa Ferrer, New Yorkers for Parks. It belongs to the people of the city of New York, and it must be protected. We do not need our elected officials making deals in exchange for parks, in this case, in the form of a so-called park alliance. The park must be protected and not be given away to the highest bidder, or in this case, the lowest bidder, which was $1 for 47.5 acres of parkland. Again, simply shameful. The parkland was never alienated. The city simply does not have the authority and the right to seize this parkland for these non-park uses without the consent of the state legislature. The illegal taking of parkland in Flushing Meadows Corona Park for a mega mall must be stopped. That is why we are fighting this in court. The parks belong to the people and not to private developers. One last comment. Yesterday, the mayor spoke about protecting parkland and the importance of making sure the public has access to its parks, and they are sacred, he stated. We couldn't agree more. We stand together here today to ask the mayor to stop this irresponsible deal and to make sure fighting against the tale of two cities also applies here in Queens. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Richard Hellenbrecht, who is president of the Queens Civic Congress.
Good afternoon. I thank my friend and my senator, Tony Avella, and friend of Queens Parks. My name is Richard Hellenbrecht, as he said. I'm president of Queens Civic Congress. Queens Civic Congress is a coalition of over 100 civic associations throughout Queens, many of whom are represented here, and I thank them for coming. This sign is perfect. I love what it says. This is parkland, and people don't realize that because it's paid over, but it's parkland. It's also a theft. This is stealing, and it's for the Mets Mall. This is wrong. This is public parkland going to private benefit. Queens Civic Congress fought and continues to fight for the benefit of the park. We fought against the soccer field, and we won in that case. At least we hope we won. For now, we've won. Woo! We fought against the expansion of the tennis center. That went forward. We're happy to work with them to make sure it's the best way possible. From now on, we are continuing to fight for this park. Queens Civic Congress is proud to be a plaintiff in the lawsuit, and we certainly hope we prevail, and we'll do everything we can in our power to do so and to protect this park and the rest of the parks in Queens. Thank you very much for the day. Thank you, Senator.
The next speaker is Michael Gruen on behalf of the City Club of New York, which is also a petitioner in the lawsuit.
Hey, Mike. Woo! Didn't help.
Good afternoon. I'm president of the City Club, which has been working very hard for the past few months to put together a litigation against this project, which will block our view in a short time unless we succeed, which we intend to. This is just one example of what goes on all over the city, where parks are being desecrated by commercialism. And in some of them, it's maybe a small holiday bazaar which lasts a few weeks and may be tolerable. That's the same nature as retail on a large scale, and when it grows up into a 1.4 million square foot shopping center, that's a little bit too much. So we're very proud and very happy to be part of this litigation, and very much appreciate the opportunity, in fact, to show that it is possible for an organization which happens to have its headquarters in Manhattan to believe that it's really worthwhile to work on projects outside of Manhattan, which are just as important as anything else throughout the city. This borough deserves the great park that it has, deserves to keep it that way, and the people of Queens and the neighborhoods around here deserve to have a great park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
I just want one thing. We also just wanted to thank the lawyers, Michael and John Lebeer, for their help. They've been tremendous on this. We can't do this kind of work unless we have the legal team. And I just want to publicly thank the lawyers on that. Thank you.
The next person I'm calling up to speak, and I hope I pronounce her name right, is Irene Presta Giacomo, who's an owner of one of the businesses in the area.
Hi, I'm an owner of property in Willets Point, and I'm very proud to be one of the petitioners of the lawsuit filed by Senator Avila and the City Club of New York, challenging former Mayor Bloomberg's billion-dollar giveaway of over 40 acres of Queens Parkland for developers to construct a gigantic mall called Willets West. Parkland is sacred, and that includes all of the land behind us, which is Parkland. Whatever you may think of the original Willets Point development plan, it never involved sacrificing any parkland. In fact, 3 development firms offered to develop Willets Point without touching any parkland. But former Mayor Bloomberg rejected all of those proposals and instead went behind closed doors and designated Sterling and Related and their plan, which prioritizes building Willets West on this parkland. In doing so, Mr. Bloomberg circumvented all the mechanisms for the public or our elected representatives to have any say in this. Mr. Bloomberg violated written promises to include the Willets Point Advisory Committee in developer selection. He also determined to proceed without obtaining state parkland alienation legislation and without land use review before the 6 community boards located around the park. And this is to affect over 40 acres of parkland. Last year's expansion of the USTA Tennis Center involved just 0.68 of 1 acre, but it had to undergo those evaluations and votes. The Willets West Mall should be no different. We have had to resort to the courts because too few elected officials have shown any concern for protecting our parkland. Some of them have just completely abrogated their job of representing us. This is my own little, and I have to thank you and for what you do for us, because I'm very grateful. Everybody is. One of the few honest politicians, New Yorkers, wake up. A case in point, 4 days ago, our new Queensborough president, Melinda Katz, attended a civic meeting where she was asked this question: what are you doing to stop the illegal taking of 47 acres of our park for a mega mall in Flushing Meadows Park? Ms. Katz never answered that question. Instead, she mentioned the highway ramps that are needed for the project. She mentioned the pending lawsuit, and she implied that she's just coming up to speed regarding the whole project. She's the borough president, been after it for a long time. You don't just come up to speed in all that time. What's incredible is that Melinda Katz was the chair of Council's Land Use Committee in 2008 when the original Willets Point development was approved. It's inconceivable that she would not be aware of the drastic changes to the project, including its expansion onto 40 acres of parkland. Moreover, Ms. Katz's deputy borough president is Leroy Comrie, who was the chair of the council's land use committee just last year, when the special permit to convert Willets Point into a parking lot was approved. Mr. Comrie knows exactly what is involved with the mall and the parkland. So does Ms. Katz's director of community boards, who is none other than Barry Grodenchik, formerly the professional lobbyist working with Claire Schulman to ensure approval of the Willets Point development. Mr. Grodenchik knows exactly what is involved with the mall and parkland. Finally, Ms. Katz also has staff members who are holdovers from the prior administration, including those who attended numerous meetings where the mall on Parkland was discussed in great detail. So, Ms. Katz, Mayor de Blasio, and all other elected officials, please don't insult the people of Queens by pretending you don't know about the sacrifice of over 40 acres of parkland for a mega mall. You can and should publicly denounce the Willets West Mall on Parkland, and let it be known that on your watch, public approvals will always be sought, not circumvented. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next is Lenny Juka, a business owner and city club member.
Thank you. I'll be really brief. I want to start with one thought or one question. I would ask anybody in the city of New York, what would they do if today is Flushing Meadow Park and tomorrow is Central Park? What are we going to do if people for private profit are coming to build in our parks? This is my community. I've been living here since I was a little boy. I grew up here. I have a business here. I have my family here. I'm here just to say that we are not going to let some corporation come into our parks and build for profit. That's what they're doing. They're coming into our parks, building it for their pure profit. They don't care about the community. And we need this park. As a community, as a business owners, as a member of Queens, we need this park. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. We just have two more speakers. Next, I'd like to introduce Paul Graziano, an urban planner and somebody who's been actively involved in the issue of saving Flushing Meadows Corona Park.
Hi, everybody. I'm also one of the plaintiffs of the lawsuit. So I just wanted, and I'm one of the co-founders of Save Flushing Meadows Corona Park, which was created specifically as a coalition of community-based civic and environmental groups opposed to all commercial encroachment in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. I rarely read from prepared statements, but I'm going to do it for the sake of brevity. This project represents everything that's wrong about development in New York City. When billionaire friends of former Mayor Bloomberg can pervert the land use process in order to steal over 40 acres of our parkland for private commercial development without so much as a public hearing, it is our duty as citizens and taxpayers to stop what will clearly be a terrible scenario should this be allowed to proceed. Protecting our parkland is critical to the health of our surrounding neighborhoods of Corona and Flushing and for the whole city. These are neighborhoods, many of these neighborhoods have very little open space, and Flushing Meadows Corona Park is the only place they have to have any kind of recreation whatsoever. Finally, this construction is going to have a negative effect on the surrounding business districts. And the city should be spending money, for example, helping the Roosevelt Avenue merchants revitalize their commercial district instead of giving away a piece of our parkland, our public parkland, that's worth, all said and done, $1 billion. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Benjamin Haber, who's a longtime not only Queens resident, but probably the longest advocate, the long-standing advocate on behalf of Flushing Meadows Corona Park.
I'm going to read my statement to make it quickly. There was a time in this city when land use changes were being made in smoke-filled back rooms between hack politicians and fat cat real estate moguls. Not only without any input from the communities that would be affected, but often the communities would not even know about it until it was a fait accompli. This was not the way democracy dictates how a city should be run. This changed when the law was enacted setting up community boards. While problems did remain with the procedures set up, at least it was mandated that communities had to be apprised of what was being sought and had a right to be heard. I was born in Queens and I have lived here my entire life. I have seen much political skullduggery over the years, going back to the time the infamous Queensborough President Donald Maness tried to have a Grand Prix racetrack built in Flushing Meadows Corona Park. I was the chairperson that opposed that. It never got built because we got the public and the media to come out against it. Since Parkland is involved in a change from a ball club parking facility to a 1.4 million square foot commercial shopping mall, is beyond reasonable argument a significant land use change.
Now we got the planes. That's a whole nother issue.
It would require ULIP and park alienation legislation. There are 6 community boards that involve the park, and each would legally be entitled to a ULIP hearing. That did not happen because of a scheme hatched between former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, the Mets Ball Club, and their partners, the related companies and Sterling Equities, a scheme so outrageous it would make the infamous Boss Tweed tip his hat in admiration. This is a sordid tale, and I believe demonstrates we have a government in this city that is run by far too many legislative incompetents who parade as your representative, but in fact are real estate lobbyists. In 2008, the Bloomberg administration declared 62 acres of property in Willets Point, in which there were over 200 auto businesses and others employing hundreds, a blight. Auto repair shops in and of themselves cannot be a blight, just like a glue factory is not a blight. To the extent there was a blight, it was caused by the city of New York, which for decades collected sewer rent, notwithstanding there were no sewers, and collected real estate and other taxes and did not do anything for the infrastructure. The Willets Point plan approved in 2008 was clear and unambiguous. The city would acquire 62 acres through voluntary sale by property owners, or if need be, through eminent domain. A private developer would construct on the site upscale stores, office buildings, a convention center, a school, and luxury housing, with a portion set aside for affordable housing. The developer would be required to remove whatever contamination existed in a 23-acre portion. There was no mention, I repeat, no mention of a 1.4 million square foot shopping mall at Citi Field or any connection to Citi Field. The Mets and related companies and Sterling Equities, multi-billionaires, were selected as the developers without community input, even though Bloomberg promised it would have some input. Originally, what they had in mind was a gambling casino, and when that fell through, they came up with this shopping mall. Now, what they did to seek what they described as a minor amendment to the 2008 plan, to wit, permission to build a parking area in Willets Point, to be sure that would indeed be a minor change. There was, in fact, like the elephant in the back room, a major change being slipped through the back door to enable the Mets Ball Club to move their Citi Field parking area to Willets Point on the vacated parking lot to construct a 1.4 million square foot shopping mall, which had nothing at all to do with the original 2008 Willets Point plan. In what was a monumental lack of transparency, it was set up in a way there would be no ULIP for the shopping mall and no requirement for legislative approval with regard to municipal park alienation. They had insult to injury. The sordid deal also gave these billionaire developers the Willets Point property that was acquired by the city for tens of millions of dollars for $1. That's right, $1, with a $99 million subsidy and about a $50 million tax abatement. And the Willets Point affordable housing put on the back burner until 2025, when half of us will be dead. This outrageous deal without ULIP and state legislative park alienation approval, and with indifference to the fact that communities were cut out of the process, was accepted by former Queensborough President Helen Marshall, the City Planning Commission, and the majority of the City Council. If stupidity was a crime, they'd be in big trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, the battle is not over, and we can still stop it because there's a litigation pending in which all we are seeking is compliance with the law. If the law says they can do it, fine, but we have a right to be heard, and we have to tell Mayor de Blasio it's his job now to support us in this litigation. We go back to square one. If they comply with the law, okay. If not, then that's the way it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to recognize the various civic groups that are here. Belrose Hillside Civic, Whitestone Taxpayer Civic, Kew Garden Hills Tenant Association, Juniper Park Civic Association, Belrose Commonwealth Civic Association, Jackson Heights Beautification Group, Bay Terrace Community Alliance. I hear somebody's got and we also have representatives from Community Board 8, Community Board 7, Community Board 13, Hillcrest Estate Civic, and Flushing on the Hill Civic. If there's anybody I missed, yell it out. Holly Civic. Casino Corridor Park Civic.
Community Board 3.
Community Board 3. All right. What? Comment. Board 8. Okay. Flushing Meadows Corona Park Conservancy. Did I? Parks are not for sale. 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 All right, thank you everybody for coming out. Yay.